Been driving by this thrift store for years, and this is the first time I've actually made time to stop and check them out. And this was the first thing that caught my eye as I walked into the store. The only reason I knew what it was because it had the instructions that said that it was a knitting machine. If you know about these things, let me know. Is that the case it would have originally come in? Because the case looks older than I would guess the machine was. Like I said, this was the first time that we had been in the store, and it's for a good cause, but the prices seemed high. That, I think, is my mother's china pattern, but it's been a while since I've seen my mother's china. Here's one of the trivets that we've been getting for cross-stitching. I like the image on that one, and it should have occurred to me that I could have got it and used it in my kitchen the way trivets are intended to be used, especially after I figured out later that it was 75% off. But I wasn't going to go back inside and plug the parking meter so that I could get it. I don't know if that is one of those Victorian pickle casters I am so obsessed with, but it would have been sparkly storage for the sewing room. I am seeing that bassinet everywhere lately. And it is the exact one that I had when I was a baby and we used for my oldest when she was a baby. It was a long time ago. She never slept in it anyway, so don't worry about it. Don't put your babies in old cribs. They had a couple of newer looking quilts. I love that fabric with the birds and the nest. Don't love those two quite as much. They didn't look like they had ever been used. And there's some really cute Raggedy Ann and Andy vintage fabric. The craft section had so many wine corks, but in the event that I need wine corks, I know of a place to get them that is less expensive, that also supports a good cause. So I'd be headed down to Mecca in Eugene. Their whole purpose is to save things that can be used for crafting from the landfill. And one of these days, I'm going to get down there and make a video. COVID has just put a cramp in a whole lot of plans. I really didn't find much of anything in their craft section. But that is okay. Sometimes there is something. They had fabric, and this you could tell even through the plastic bags, most of it was not cotton. That top blue piece on the video looks like it could be, but it was a very definite upholstery texture. Second stop of the day, and I found adorable little resin houses. These are some of the cutest I've seen in a while. They had so many great little details, and they weren't all that expensive. I cannot buy every little cute little village that I fall in love with. And years ago, my mother used to collect cherished teddies and precious moments, and the shop she bought them at had a line of houses that were really rustic, I guess. They had little docks and alcoves, and they were just fabulously old-timey. And looking at these kind of made me decide that if I ever find any of those, which I don't know if I'll recognize when I see them because I can't remember what they were called, if I find one of those and it's not priced sky high, I can have it. In the meantime, I will just be entertained by all of the cute little houses. I don't know if that base was milk glass. One of these days, I am going to educate myself and figure out what is and is not milk glass. That spectacularly cute candy dish, I think, was porcelain, and the camera's at a different angle than my eyes were. I don't think that that top and that base match if you look at them there. They didn't fit together in the store, but I wasn't quite catching on. It was pretty. That's milk glass, and it was spikier than the hobnails, so I don't know if there's a different name for that. I've got to look it up and see if there's a how to identify milk glass video or website. There has to be. Really cute little piece with the holes that would be perfect for holding embroidery scissors if I had more than 3 itty-bitty pairs of embroidery scissors, and if mine were cute enough to display that way. They're not. There's another one right there to the right. And back where I have already been. And then that is, I have seen that vase twice lately. Those are three of the vases that everybody and their grandma has. And then to the left of those, we had all the other vases. Someone must have donated their whole collection of milk glass because there was so much of it on the shelf. And there's another one, and then I think there's one peeking just there in the back, except I was really distracted by the sparkly, gorgeous yellow glass, and I would just imagine that that is Fenton because it was very similar in color and pattern to that little boot I found at the estate sale and fell in love with. I don't know exactly when I developed my addiction to sparkly glass, but I do seem to be keeping it under control so far. And there's another milk glass vase. Like I said, there was a lot, and it makes me wonder how it all wound up there. I found more milk glass vases than there were cornucopias, and there were a lot of cornucopias on the shelf this trip. I think I counted 7 without really trying. My son wasn't with me, or we would have got a better count. How old do they have to get before the novelty of annoying you with cornucopias wears off? These chairs were really sweet and delicate and just amazing, and I know they're made for displaying dolls, but imagine what kind of an adorable little vignette you could set up with some miniature quilts with those. And another vase that was not with its friends, it was at the other end of the store. I like this bear antler resin piece, and I thought about grabbing it to save for a gift later, but it was just too banged up, which was a shame. More pretty sparkly glass. I like these. I think the 25 was for the set, which I don't know what matching bowls, little bowls and big bowls go for. Maybe that's reasonable. I'm curious why the mask interfacing was on the shelf at Goodwill instead of being used to make masks, because that has got to be new. Those would not have existed before this year. So maybe someone got bored or ran out of fabric or elastic. I'm always curious why things wind up where they wind up, sometimes when they could have been donated to better places. I like the fabric in this stack, but I was looking for something like that back at Halloween for a project and couldn't find anything. This would have been perfect then, but the timing was wrong, and I convinced myself I didn't need it. And I just really was not in a shopping mood on this day. I was in a browsing mood, which is always fun and more sustainable than the shopping mood. Little bit of yarn, but nothing that really caught my eye and made me think that I wanted to take it home. And after I left this store, I had an unexpected errand to run. I had no idea that this errand was going to put me in the same strip mall as a Value Village that I had never been to before. Our Value Village closed, I don't know how long ago. It's probably been a year now. And I rarely found anything there, but it was the shop that we always went to meet Grandma at. And so I get nostalgic for Value Village and the walls full of little baggies of random stuff. And I'd been filming for a thrifting video, so I decided that I really should stop and stretch my legs and take a look and see if there was anything to be seen. Grandma had the patience to look at all the bags, and she would find treasures. She, for a few years, had an antique mall, and finding treasures was her thing. She was very good at it. I am not good at it. If there is something awesome hanging here, it would have to jump out and bite me. And it rarely does. Now, give me some embroidery floss and plastic wrap, that will jump out at me from feet away. That was a great factory seal kit for not a bad price, but not my style. They had some great fabric too, and I've been seeing more fabric this past couple of weeks than I have seen in absolutely ages. I don't know if it's just a case of being in the right place at the right time. These bundles of black and white, if you were working on the quilt that called for that, you would have struck gold there. I still can't get used to the current prices of fabric, so it's gonna be a while, if ever, before I can get motivated enough to spend quite that much. But for someone, that is a great deal. I like this piece. I know it's an ashtray, and it probably had someone's gross ashes in it. And I'm also a little confused why you would have a ashtray for cigarettes that is made to look like a pipe, but I don't care. It intrigued me. It was fun to look at. Let me know, did you see anything on this trip that caught your interest? Do you feel that it's too much to have to pay for the parking meter outside the thrift store? I'm Michelle. This is my romantic tangle, and I'll be back with you again soon. Thanks for thrifting with me.